Right, so hello everyone, welcome back to the Paul Carroll Sport podcast. Today we're going to be looking ahead to round three of the County Senior Hurling Championship. We're going to be going down through all the games happening this weekend, 8 games across the senior, 8 games in the Premier Intermediate, and 8 games in the Intermediate Championship. A couple of things to run down through before we get started. First of all, permutations, as everyone knows, it's the top two teams go through, but we'll go down through the tiebreakers and things like that. So you might have seen on my Twitter this week I put together all the permutations. Took a bit of time, all right, but a bit of a handy one coming for the weekend. So I may as well just talk down through it as well, just because you might have seen these, but I might just give a quick breakdown so it's easier to understand. So starting with this Group 1 of the Senior Hurling Championship, we have Killer 1 on 4 points. I actually have that group up here. Killer 1 on 4 points at the top, Bursley second, and Toom in third, Drummond fourth. So basically, top two go through, as we know, but if it's three teams or more, if there's three teams on the same amount of points, it goes to a three-way score difference um, between those teams. So let's say if come Sunday evening, Killer 1, Bursley and Toom are all on 4 points, the score difference will come down to just the games between Toom, Bursley and Killer 1. So Drum would be excluded from the score difference. So you'll see the example I have here on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. If you're on listening on Spotify, it is on the P Carl Sport Twitter as well, just the permutation. So you'll see there if Toom and Bursley win, um, that would leave Toom, Killer 1 and Burrs all on 4 points. And you can see in that three-way score difference, Toom are currently on -2, Killer 1 are on +1, and Burrs are on +1 as well. So obviously that will change because Toom are playing Killer 1. So Bursley won't be able to change their score difference here, but Toom and Killer 1 will be able. So I even think looking in that situation, if Toom were to beat Killer 1, that would push Killer 1 out of the equation. So if Killer 1 are bet and Bursley were to beat Drum, they could be eliminated. So we're not going to get into each one of those in too much detail, but that's just kind of a general overview of how the permutations work this week. So yeah, before we get started, just a shout out, I suppose, to everyone who got in contact after I made the permutations. A bit of work went into it, all right, but you kind of get into a pattern once you get going because all the groups are pretty much the same in terms of, Group 1 of the Intermediate Hurling Championship could be set up the exact same way as Group 1 of the Senior, just there's different teams involved, but the permutations are still the same for the most part. But it is tedious going down through these ones like this Group 1 where there's 9 different outcomes that can happen. But when you come across a group like this Group 2 and the Senior where Thurles are guaranteed top, Roscrea are guaranteed bottom, and it's a straight shootout between Moycarkey and Mullinahone, that's a good buzz when I was going through the permutations because that group was done in 60 seconds, whereas some of the other groups were taking maybe 10-15 minutes a pop, if I was to guess. But yeah, we'll go down through the predictions as well. We had a terrible group, or week one. We only had 9 out of 23 right. We had a very good round two of games, 18 out of 24 correct predictions. So there's a few dead rubbers across the three grades, but not an awful lot. So we'll have a go at those predictions as well. I mentioned in the last podcast as well that I would try to set up something where listeners could put in their predictions. To be honest, I only remembered that when just as I was about to press record a few minutes ago, so I didn't have time to run down and find a way of doing that. So you're going to have to bear with me another week or two on that. So just in some of my mentions here on the screen of YouTube and followers, yeah, so our followers have been going well. The YouTube is up to 70 subscribers now. I said last podcast I done we were down around 40, so we're moving well. If you're watching on YouTube, throw down no subscribe. It's free. Try and get up to 100 if we can as soon as possible. Makes no real difference. It's just a nice number on the screen. But then elsewhere, the review podcast will be coming out Sunday evening as usual. And then just some, I suppose, housekeeping about the quarter-final draw. I don't think it's the next County Board CCC meeting, so I'd imagine that's going to be next Monday when the quarter-final draw is made. And the quarter-final weekend is fixed for September the 15th. And if there is preliminary quarter-finals, they'll be on September the 8th. So, if you do make a preliminary quarter-final, if you miss out on the top two, you're going to be playing 2 weekends in a row if you make it out of the prelim into the quarter-final. So, lot to discuss in this week's podcast, and we'll try and keep it short enough because we're just going to be looking at the matches and I'll be giving my predictions. So, We'll get straight into it. I'd say probably about a half an hour or so. We'll start with Group 1 of the Senior Hurling Championship, and as I said, we'll move down through all the groups in the 3 divisions. So let's start with Group 1 of the Senior Championship. As I mentioned, as it stands, we've Killarone on top on 4 points. They take on Toomevara, who are in third on 2 points, and then we've Bursalee against Drum. Bursalee on 2 points. Drum, they're winless in their first 2 games. So all the games in the groups this week, of course, going to be played at the same time. So there's only 2 senior games on Saturday, 6 on Sunday. So the 2 on Saturday, 3:45 in Holy Cross, Bursalee against Drum. That game will be on Tip FM. I'll be doing that on Saturday. And then Killarone McDonough's against Toomevara at the same time in Nina. So the way this group is looking, Killarone are top. They're not guaranteed to go through, as we said, because they can still be in a 3-way score difference if they were to lose to Toom and if Bursalee were to beat Drum. But as we mentioned there, they'd actually have to be careful if they do lose to Toom. Let's say by a margin of 2 points, and Bursalee were to beat Drum by any margin at all, then Killarone would be out. So it's a dangerous one for Killarone because they've started so well in the championship. They had the opening round win against Drum and Inch in Templederry, and then they had that win against Bursalee last time out, albeit controversially for a finish, but you couldn't begrudge them that win either. So this is going to be a really hard game to call, this Killarone against Toom. Toom have to win, they know that coming in. Although if Toom were to lose and if Drum were to beat Bursalee, then Bursalee, Toom and Drum would all be on 2 points and Killarone would top the group. And in that scenario, we have another 3-way score difference tie, and that's this one I've highlighted on screen here. So in that 3-way score difference, Drum are -5, Bursalee are +2, and Toomevara are +3. So Toom are locked in on that +3 number, so they would be safe. I would imagine, they'd be safe if they were to lose to Killarone, and if Drum were to win, they wouldn't go down. So it would come down to score difference, which would also sort out who finishes second in that group, not only fourth. So really interesting to see how this all plays out. Again, we could be here for the night talking about all the different permutations, but it's just a matter of if come Saturday afternoon in this group's case, whatever way the groups come out, you'll be able to just check, let's say Killarone and Bursalee win, well then that's the top 2 and third and fourth. That's how the group will line up. So this will come in handy, this sheet. It's on the Paul Carroll Sports Twitter. If you want to screenshot it or whatever, it will come in handy over the weekend, as even if you're not only concerned about your own club but looking down in the other games. So looking ahead to this game now, Killarone against Toom. I think Toom will get a huge boost after their win over Drum. They really needed that. Their backs were to the wall that day, and some of their players who didn't show up in the first game really kind of showed up in the second game. Killarone, I feel if I was to put my head into the mindset of both sets of players, Toom are probably kind of coming in knowing that it's must win. They've no other choice, they have to win. Whereas I think Killarone might be thinking in the back of their head, even if we're bet, depending on how other games go, we could be all right, and they've won their 2 games. So there could be a little bit of complacency there in Killarone. Really, really hard game to call. I'll lean Toomevara, but it's the slightest of leans possible. I'll lean Toom just because I think there might be a bit more of an edge to him. But these are really tough games to call, and I'll be saying that throughout the podcast. But the other game then, Drum against Bursalee. Again, Bursalee I think will be coming into this game knowing that a win puts them in a great position to go through in this group. Drum then on the other side, they're fighting to avoid relegation, which I don't think they would have expected to be in that position whatsoever. And they haven't been awful. They scored 125 in the first game, 119 against Toom in the second game was very disappointing. Their first half performance just wasn't up to scratch whatsoever, but they did have chances against Toom that to pull that game back. And I mentioned Tommy Nolan's chance that Rory Brislan and the Toom goal saved the last time. It's such fine margins in this group. These teams are local rivals, Bursalee and Drum. They went to penalties a few years ago when they met in the county championship. I haven't done my research yet. This is only Tuesday evening at 5 to 8 as I'm recording this. I haven't done my research for the commentary I'll be doing on this game later. So in terms of head to head and last meetings, I don't have it off the top of my head just yet, but they played each other in a penalty shootout a couple of years ago. Drum won that down in Semple Stadium. This is a derby game, nothing between them. I just feel Drum maybe momentum is a funny thing. I think they probably won't have momentum from that game. Bursley will have JD Devaney back. I would be leaning Bursley in that game, but again, very much a tight one. We'll fill out the prediction sheet in front of me as I'm going. We'll go with Bursley. We'll go with Toom. So if my permutations were to go right, a Bursley win and a Toom win would leave us on that situation. Where do I have a Toom win and Bursley win? Would leave us on that score difference situation. So that's how I predict round 1 going, or round 3 of Group 1 going. But again, it's anyone's guess in that particular group. Group 2 now, we have Thurles Sarsfields against Roscrea. Thurles topping the group, 2 wins from 2. They're guaranteed top spot in this group. Roscrea guaranteed bottom spot in this group. So that Thurles Sarsfields Roscrea game, it's going to be a dead rubber. Roscrea have no momentum whatsoever. I'm going to go with Thurles. This game is on Sunday evening at 3:45 in Templemore. At the same time then, the other game in that group is at the same time in Cashel, and this is Mullinahone against Moycarkey Burris. So this game now is very interesting. They were meant to play each other in the football championship last weekend, and it was Moycarkey Burris who gave Mullinahone a walkover. Mullinahone had given someone else a walkover in the first round. I've been saying it during the week, the football championship this year in Tip is just, it's compared to the hurling, with the no relegation in the senior, there's no jeopardy, there's teams giving walkovers in senior football championship and intermediate football championship in the case of Moycarkey Burris and Mullinahone, but it's just a bad look and it's hard to get too excited at all about the football. But these teams obviously probably more focused on the hurling this weekend. So Mullinahone against Moycarkey Burris, they both bet Roscrea, they've both lost to Thurles Sarsfields, and then they just know that it's a straight shootout for this second place. And if it is a draw, then the score difference favours Moycarkey Burris. They're on level score difference, Mullinahone are on -4. So Moycarkey Burris draw even would see them through. So they have that little bit of an advantage. Just trying to see where this game is on. It's on in Cashel, as I was saying. So yeah, both teams will really fancy this. This is a huge chance for both teams to get into the knockout stages, book a place in the last 8. Mullinahone, I said before the Roscrea game that they always have a win in them, and they didn't have Conor Whelan that day, they didn't have Mikey O'Shea. Not entirely sure if them lads are back. I remember at the start of the championship it was nearly kind of said that they'd be back for the last round. So if any of the listeners down around Mullinahone want to fill me in on that one, you can in the comments or whatever. But if they do have Conor Whelan and Mikey O'Shea back, that's a huge fill up for them. For Moycarkey Burris, they're coming in off probably a deflating defeat to Thurles, I would imagine. I know they finished with a few goals from Reece Shelley, but I'd imagine they were going down to Templemore to play Thurles that day, kind of in the back of their head thinking this could be the day we turn them over, the local rivals, the town team, and then they were blown away in the first 10 minutes of that game. So I'd say that was a demoralising victory. I know Kieran Morris came on in that game, so that's a push to them, but I have a slight lean for Mullinahone just in my head. If they can get them lads back, they're a much more experienced team, I'd say, than this Moycarkey Burris team. A lot of young lads in the Moycarkey Burris team. Now that could stand to them as well, in terms of maybe being a bit fitter than Mullinahone or things like that. But I'm very much looking forward to this game. It's one of them games because it is the straight shootout for the second spot. They're the best games to be looking forward to this weekend. There's a couple more of them. If one comes to mind is Upperchurch and Ballina in the Premier Intermediate. But these are the big games of the weekend because there's no worrying about permutations. It's kind of winning in for each of these teams. Find it very hard to call. I'll give a slight lean to Mullinahone. There. But again, this could be a draw. I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if Moycarkey win, but I just have to put something down. So we'll go with Mullinahone there. But again, another close game expected. Group 3 then of the Senior Championship, how it stands at the minute. Lockmore Castellini 2 from 2. They're at the top. Holy Cross in second with 2 points, and Nina Rogan third on 2 points, and Laura at the bottom in fourth. Interestingly enough about this group is there's nothing sure. Lockmore Castellini have 2 wins from 2, but they're playing Nina next, and there's a circumstance where Lockmore Castellini could miss out. So if Lockmore were to lose to Nina and Holy Cross were to beat Laura, then we have it up here. So what did I say? If Nina were to win and Holy Cross were to win, we'd have that three-way tie. And Lockmore are currently +7 on that, but if they were to lose to Nina, that would obviously come down. Holy Cross are -2. So I think if it was a situation where Holy Cross can't move from that -2 because they've played Nina and Lockmore, so Holy Cross are stuck at -2. But let's say Nina beat Lockmore by what? They'd have to beat them by 7 points, nine. I think they'd have to win by 10 points for Lockmore to be eliminated. So Lockmore probably safe. You'd have to say, like, if Nina are going to win this game, it would be some turnout if Nina bet Lockmore by 10 points to knock them out of the championship. So, Lockmore probably, if I'm not sure if the Lockmore players or management are aware of that's the permutation. I'm sure they are, but they'd probably feel a little bit safe in that knowledge, knowing that it would have to take a bit of a calamity to be eliminated from the championship. Nina, on the other hand, know that they have to come in and win this game, because if Nina were to be bet, and if Nina were to be bet, they're just not going to go through. There's no way of them going through if they are bet. So Nina know they have to come in and try and win this game. So this game is on, let's get it up here in front of us, Lockmore Castleiney against Nina. This is in Bursley at 4 o'clock on Sunday. And again, another game I'll be doing on Tip FM. The same time in Templederry then in this group is Holy Cross against Lura. So Lura still have a chance. I actually thought when I was recording the review podcast the last time that they were out. But if Lura were to win and Nina were to win, then Lura would be third and they'd have the head-to-head in Holy Cross, who they would have just beaten. So, this is a massive game for Lura as well. But my predictions for this group, Nina are so hard to predict because the first game they were very poor, I thought, against Holy Cross. And then, they completely blew Lura out of the way the last time. This is obviously going to be a different test. This Lockmore Castleiney team are the form team in the championship. I don't know why. In my head, I should be just saying Lockmore Castleiney are going to win this game, but I do have a slight kind of. I feel like Nina, that win over Lura, albeit it was a very one-sided game and hard to take too much from it, but that could have just helped them find their groove a little bit. But Lockmore are just so hard to beat. They were so comfortable against Holy Cross that it is very hard to predict against Lockmore Castleiney, and I'm almost doubting myself in my head now about who I'm going to go with. I feel like my head is telling me Lockmore Castleiney, but I have something about Nina this weekend. But I'll put down Lockmore. But listeners now of the podcast, if you're just looking at the graphic I have on Twitter later in the week, you'll see, he thinks Lockmore are going to beat Nina. But again, I feel like Nina could do something. Holy Cross, they were really poor against Lockmore Castleiney. They never got up to it whatsoever, but they'll know that they have a right chance to go through. Lura will know that they have a right chance to keep themselves alive. So that's a really interesting game. I'll go with Holy Cross in that one, just because I feel Lura's momentum would have been completely sapped after that loss to Nina. So it might be hard for them to pick themselves up straight away. I could see it playing out with like a good Lura performance, but a Holy Cross win, but a Lura performance that maybe gets their momentum back. But we'll see how this goes, as this Tipperary GA website seems to be crashing on me here. But we'll go to the final round, or the final group of the senior championship. Okay, thank God that loaded. So we've JK Brackens, they're guaranteed to go through. They play Killadangan. It's just a matter of whether JK Brackens are going to be first or second. And then the other game in that group is Clounty against Templederry Kenyans. So JK Brackens against Killadangan. This one is on Sunday at 1 o'clock in Dala. Again, that's the third game I'll be doing on Tip FM this weekend. So 1 o'clock on Sunday, Killadangan against Brackens and Dala. Then at the same time in the RAG, we've Clounty Rossmore against Templederry Kenyans. So this group is fairly straightforward. The winners of Brackens against Killadangan top the group. And if Killadangan win, Brackens finish second, and a draw means Brackens are first and Killadangan are second. So a win or a draw for Brackens will guarantee them top spot, but even if they lose, they're guaranteed at least second, because Clounty can't catch them, or neither can Templederry in terms of their points tally after 2 games. So the other game then, the loser of Clounty versus Templederry, is heading for relegation. So Clounty are in a dangerous position, I suppose, because they really let it go against Killadangan, 420 apiece, and the 8 points up, and then they no-showed against JK Brackens until the last 15 minutes of that game. They were 15 points down at the time. So I feel like their kind of momentum is going to be in a poor place. Templederry were well bet by Killadangan and well bet by JK Brackens, and they've a few injuries. So, in terms of my predictions for this group, although it is a relegation scrap between Clonalty and Templederry, I will go with Clonalty for this one. But there is a situation where Clonalty can go through. So if Brackens were to beat Killadangan and Clonalty were to beat Templederry, that would leave Kildangan and Clonalty both on 3 points. So it comes to score difference then. Of course, the head-to-head between them was a draw, so that wouldn't count for anything. Kildangan are currently 20 points, plus 20 points on that score difference, and Clonalty are -6. So Brackens would have to beat Killadangan by a bit of a margin, and then Clonalty would have to beat Templederry by a bit of a margin. Clonalty would have to overturn that 26-point score difference. So in terms of getting out of the group, it's not looking good for Clonalty, but I'll back them to beat Templederry, albeit they might kind of know that their odds of going through, their chances of going through are slim to none at this stage now, unless they overturn that huge deficit, and they have to hope Brackens beat Killadangan. So they're asking their hopes are pinned on the chances that the county champions are bet. So it's not something you want to be hanging your hat on. So Clonalty, I feel like they could even be going into this a little bit deflated, and Templederry could see that as a chance. And we saw Templederry last year turning over Holy Cross on the last day. So stranger things have happened, but I just think Templederry have a few injuries at the minute. It's going to be tough for them. The second game then is Brackens against Killadangan. I think Killadangan are going to win this game. They're just more experienced. Brackens are absolutely flying at those, the only thing. But Killadangan know they just have to come in and win this game. And I think they probably will. It's a big step up for Brackens in terms of level, I suppose. Just Killadangan are such a weathered team, or just an experienced team, I should say, maybe not weathered. And Brackens are, new management. It's a huge. I've predicted Brackens to lose every game so far, and they've won their first 2 games. So I'd say Anthony Shelley and the Templemore crowd would probably be happy to see me predict Killadangan here, because I've been wrong on Brackens every time so far. So that's my predictions for the senior championship games. And looking at it there, I have the first team named to win every game bar Toomey Vara. So that just doesn't look right, and I doubt that. I'm going to go 8 from 8 there. I would be massively surprised if I went 8 for 8. If there's games I'd be confident in my predictions, I would be probably confident in Thurles, probably confident in Holy Cross, maybe. Maybe I'd be happy with 4 or 5 out of 8 there in those predictions. They're difficult games to predict, but we'll move on now. What are we, 22 minutes in, so we'll try and keep it moving fairly quickly down through the Premier Intermediate. We'll start with Group 1, and this is Carrick Swan are guaranteed top. They play the Silvermines, who are guaranteed bottom of that group, so that's a bit of a dead rubber there. And then it's Upperchurch against Ballina, straight shootout for second place. Upperchurch do have the safety net of they won the mid Premier Intermediate, so they have a preliminary quarter final even if they were to lose. So from here out, Upperchurch are guaranteed to be in the knockout stages. So this game maybe isn't as important to them, but as I was saying earlier, if you get into a preliminary quarter final, you could get drawn against any, a very good team, and then you're playing 2 weeks in a row. It's a dangerous place to be in. So I suspect Upperchurch don't want to go down that route whatsoever. So Carrick Swan against the Mines. Carrick Swan absolutely flying it. The Mines know they have a relegation battle ahead, so you're kind of thinking this is dead rubber territory, but probably going to have to go with Carrick Swan. I should mention when these games are on. So this is Sunday evening, 6:15. So these are the last games that are on over the weekend. So I'll be keeping an eye on this just before I'm about to record the podcast. I'd suspect come Sunday evening. So that first game will go with Carrick Swan. This is on in Gertnahu at 6:15 on Sunday. The other game in the group then is Ballina against Upperchurch Drumban. This is on in Toomey Vara. So Upperchurch, they bet the Mines by 10 points the last day. Kind of got a bit of a soft goal, but they probably weathered the storm. There's only 3 points in it at half time, and they pushed on and they did win that game, which was massive considering they'd lost to Carrick Swan. So I think that was probably a bit of a get right game for Upperchurch. Ballina really kept it up to Carrick Swan. I know David Kelly got a goal kind of last puck of the game, maybe to make the scoreboard a little bit closer than maybe it was, but Carrick Swan scored 2 late goals, if I remember correctly, in that game as well. So I think this is going to be closer than people might expect. Upper Church big favourites for this championship. But Ballina, if Stephen O'Brien is fit, I don't know if he is, and if Owen Power is fit, that'll be huge for Ballina. They both missed out against Carrick Swan. I think Ballina can give this a really good rattle. I think Upper Church will probably win it in the end, but don't be surprised if Ballina keep this very close, and I wouldn't be overly shocked if they can maybe throw up an upset. I don't have the odds in front of me, but I'd imagine Upper Church are favourites for that game. So that's how I see those two games going. Group 2 then in the Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship. Let's see how that one is looking. That is Éire Óg Anacarty are top with 4 points. Gorton Who are second with 2 points. Cashel are third with 2 points. And Mine Temple Tuohy in fourth with no points yet for them. So this is one of them groups where kind of anything can happen yet. We'll pull it up here on the sheet of permutations. So Éire Óg Anacarty against Cashel. This is their 5th time I think they've played. I think they played in like the Crosscoat Cup. They played in the league. They played in the West Championship group stage, and then they played in the West Final. The West Final, I think Éire Óg Anacarty won in the group stage, I think, of the West. And then the West Final was that brilliant game down in Clonalty that went to extra time, and Cashel won that game for a finish. So this is a real derby between Éire Óg Anacarty and Cashel. It's impossible to call that game, you know. I think Cashel would have got good confidence from how they finished against Mine Temple Tuohy. They won by 9 points for a finish, but there was only 2 or 3 points in that game as it was going to injury time. I think they would have liked to have been more comfortable against Mine, but it wasn't to be. Éire Óg Anacarty had a last minute goal to beat Gorton Who, so they're going to be flying coming into this. Really can't wait for that one. I might have to go on the fence for this one. I might have to call a draw between Cashel. This is on Saturday, 1 o'clock in Clonalty again, so it's where they met a couple of weeks ago. I'd imagine Cashel will have some sort of plan for Derek Kelly, and they won't let him do what he did to him in the West Final. Cashel will be bouncing though. God, it's really hard. I'm going to go with a draw. I'm going to go on the fence with that one. I'm going to go with a draw. We surely have 1 or 2 draws across the 24 games this weekend, so I think that one could be one of them. Gorton Who then against Mine Temple Tuohy. Mine Temple Tuohy really held it up to Cashel the last time out. This one's on in Littleton at 1 on Saturday. I will go with Gorton Who though. They're really used to being in the back end of this championship, so I think they'll get the win there. And let's just play it out in our heads. If what I predict was to happen and it was a Gorton Who win and Cashel Éire Óg Anacarty draw, so we'd have Éire Óg Anacarty would finish first, Gorton Who would finish second, and Cashel would finish third. So Éire Óg Anacarty know that a win or a draw would suit them. They'd definitely top the group if they got any points at all. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this group plays out. Mine are still in with a chance. If Mine can win and if Cashel won, then Mine would jump over Gorton Who Glengoole there. But we'll go with Gorton Who to win that game in Group 2. Moving on then to Group 3 of the Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship. And this group is Thurles Sarsfield's top with 4 points, Borland Douala second with 2 points, Clonakilty third with 2 points, and Newport are bottom there with 0 points. The fixtures then this weekend are Clonakilty against Thurles Sarsfields. That's at 2 o'clock on Saturday in Holy Cross. Same time then in Kappa White, Borland Douala against Newport. So again, this is kind of like that Lockmore group. Thurles have won their first 2 games, but they know that they're not guaranteed to go through. I must have a look at the score difference. So if we pull that up, if Clonakilty were to win and Borland Douala would win, that would put a 3-way tie on 4 points between Thurles. They're on +6, Borland are +2, Clonakilty are -8. So Clonakilty have a bit of work to do if they were to beat Thurles, and if Borland Douala were to win, then Clonakilty would probably have to, let's see, what are they? They're 14 points behind Thurles. They'd have to win by 8 points, or 7 points might do them as well. I suppose I should mention as well that let's say if Clonakilty were to win by 7, they'd be on -1, and if Thurles were to lose Clonakilty by 7, they'd be on -1. So the way it goes then is scores for in the 3-way tie. So that's a whole other thing. I haven't gone down that route. I'll leave that off to the CCC if we get down to that. So there's only a couple of instances, if Clonakilty won by exactly 7 points, we get down to that. So Borland Dwella know that if they win, they're on +2 in this matchup. They'd probably be safe either way. So massive game between Clonakilty and Thurles. Hard one to predict. Thurles, their second team or their first team are guaranteed to go through as group winners. So maybe training and all that might be more altered towards the second team this week. Clonakilty had that bad game against Borlahan when they conceded the 2 early goals, and then they got back and had that win against Newport. Keane O'Dwyer was on fire that day, scored 115, I think. So, God, this is a tough one to call. I think they probably met in the mid-championship. We'll do a bit of live research here. I'll open this. Jesm, after opening that in a new window, you might be able to see that. New tab, right, that's the job. Now I'm going to go down through the rigmarole of trying to find something on this website, albeit it is a bit better this year. The Mid-Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship. Did Clonakilty and Thurles play each other? I thought they did, but maybe they didn't. No, Clonakilty lost to Upperchurch. Yeah, so we're not going to get much from that. So it's a very hard game to predict. I'll go with Thurles. Dennis Kelly won't like to hear that, but I'll go with Thurles Sarsfields. Very little confidence though in that pick. If Keane O'Dwyer is on that kind of form, Thurles were county finalists last year. We'll go with Thurles, will we? Oh God, I'm not sure. The other game, I think Borlahan will have too much for Newport. We've mentioned how Newport are missing people at the minute, but they do know that they can survive. They're not summoned to relegation just yet, are Newport, so they know if they can beat Borlahan and if Clonakilty could beat Thurles, or Clonakilty even get a result against Thurles in terms of a draw, then Newport would be safe in that circumstance. So, God, this Clonakilty Thurles game is a hard one for me to predict for some reason. I'm going to go with I'll go to draw. If I'm this stuck, I'm just going to have to go to draw. I'm not overly confident either way. The other group then is of course Group 3. We'll get rid of that. So Group 4, sorry, I should say, in the Premier Intermediate. This is the group with St Mary's at the top, Burgess second, Killinall third, and Sean Tracy's fourth. St Mary's are top with 4 points. They play Killinall. Killinall bet them well in the South Championship, but Mary's are kind of flying it since then. And then Burgess against Sean Tracy. So you know the story if you're a regular listener of the podcast. I'm from Burgess. Burgess I'm going to have to put down for the win in that one. The other game then is an interesting one. Killinall against St Mary's. St Mary's, as I was saying, 2 massive wins for them the last day. I have a feeling though Killinall, they were very good against Burgess. It was one of them games that could have went either way. Then their game against Sean Tracy's, they're actually down by a point at half time, but they really turned it on in the second half. And Killinall conceded in the football. They gave a walkover to Mull Rovers in the Senior Football Championship. I think it's a bad look, especially when you have some of the best footballers in the county on the Killinall team. But I don't know the reasons for that. I'd imagine they're just going to be focusing maybe on the hurling, so they're going to be really going after this game. But I don't know. Sometimes I just think there could be a bad omen there when you do that. But St Mary's, they're on a high, but I have a slight fancy for Killinall this weekend. These games are on Friday evening, so Killinall and St Mary's is on in Feathered at 6:45, and then at the same time in Templederry, ourselves are playing Sean Tracy's there. So that's how I see it going in the Premier Intermediate Championship. But what a championship! I don't think is there anyone guaranteed to go through bar Carrick Swan in terms of definitely no way they can miss out. So unless there's one of the teams who, the way the score difference falls, they can't miss out. But in terms of going in guaranteed top of the table, it's just Carrick Swan. So really, really competitive Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship. Down to the Intermediate then, and it's a little bit more straightforward in these groups, so we should fly through this. What are we, 34 minutes in? We'll try and blow it up in the next few minutes. And we have the website kind of crashing on me again, but we'll get it going. Type in Intermediate, speed things up. So Group 1 of the Intermediate Hurling Championship. This is the group containing Golden Kilfeacle. They are top, 2 wins from 2. Clonalty Rossmore is second, Ballybacon Grange third, and Kappa White in fourth place. The way this group lines up, we have Ballybacon against Golden in Bansha at 6 o'clock on Saturday. At the same time then in Dundrum, Kappa White against Clonalty Rossmore. So Clonalty surprised me so far in this group in terms of they really went close with Golden Kilfeacle. It's Clonalty's second team. They're just up from junior. Golden were county finalists last year. You'd forgive me for thinking Golden would probably win that game by 7, 8, 9, 10 points. It was only 3 points in it for a finish. For Clouty, they as I mentioned there, they lost that game, and then the other game they bet Ballybacon by 7 points in the first round. So it's I don't know what's happened with Kappa White. Like, they were the West Intermediate champions last year, were going right well last year. I'd fancy them to beat Clouty here in this one and get right, but this group is one of them groups where anything can happen. Is there a scenario where Golden can miss out? If Ballybacon were to win and Clonalty were to win, then there'll be a score difference. And if Ballybacon were to beat Golden and Clonalty to win, Golden were out. But I would imagine Golden should win this game. So we'll go with Golden Kilfeacle in that game. Where do we have it? Golden Kilfeacle. And then the other game in that group, I'll go with Kappa White to maybe get right against Clonalty's second team. Although I'm not sure if Clonalty have lost many lads so far. They've only played 2 senior games, so they should have a fairly strong second team Clonalty, but we'll go with Kappa White there in that one. Then Group 2 of the Intermediate Hurling Championship, we'll get it up here now. So Group 2, we have Shannon Rovers top on 4 points, Portrush second on 3 points, Drummond third on 1 point, and Arvale Rovers are bottom there on 0 points. So we'll pull it up on the screen as well, just so you can see the group. No, have I got the wrong group there? Okay, no, Group 2 is actually Ballingarry, so I have that wrong in front of me. Oh no, I don't, I was just reading the wrong thing. Right, so this group is a straightforward one. Ballingarry are playing Skeen Rinky. Ballingarry are guaranteed top place. Skeen are guaranteed bottom, and then it's a straight shootout between Burskane and Kilsheelan. This is another one of them games now. Going to be really interesting to see Ballingarry. I'd fancy Ballingarry to beat Skeen Rinky. They're going to be missing one of the Ivers fella. I think he got sent off against Kilsheelan. We'll go with Ballingarry to win that one. I'll just pull up the proper fixture because some of them are a bit outdated. So this is on Saturday at 6:45 in New Inn. Ballingarry against Skeen Rinky. We'll go with Ballingarry for that one. At the same time then in Temple Toohey, it's Bursakane against Kilsheelan Kilcash. So Bursakane, the last day they bet Skeen Rinky 126 to 411. And then in their first game, they were beaten by Ballingarry 313 to 217. That was a wild game. They were down big, Bursakane, and then they got it back to a point in injury time. I think Kilsheelan might have shot themselves in the foot the last day against Ballingarry. They scored 4 goals, were going right well. Mark Keogh got sent off at the start of the second half, so he's going to be missing this game. And I think he might have got a 2-match suspension because he got sent off in the county semi-final, which was within a year ago. So he's going to be a massive loss for them. So I do have a fancy here for Bursakane in this game. That's going to be a really, really close game. I'll lean Bursakane, but Kilsheelan were really good against Ballingarry. They'll feel they left it behind them. They've been dealing without Mark Keogh throughout the year. Senan Butler getting used to the adult grade. Wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if Kilsheelan win this game, but we'll lean with Bursakane there in that one. It is a very slight lean, I must say, though. These games are much harder to predict maybe than last or 2 weeks. The last round of fixtures were Group 3 then of the Intermediate. That's the one with Shannon Rovers top, Port second, Drum third, and Arvale Rovers fourth. So it's Shannon Rovers against Portrush. This one is on in, what's that after doing to me there? Okay, there seems to be some mess with the tip website there. It's not letting me see the fixtures, but I have it here anyway. So we have Portrush against Shannon Rovers. This is Sunday at 2 o'clock in Nina. At the same time in Drumban, we have Arvale Rovers against Drummond. Permutations for this group: the Rovers versus Port. The winners top the group, and if Port wins, Port are first, Rovers are second. But if Shannon Rovers win and Drummond win, that would leave Rovers first, but Portrush and Drummond will be level on 3 points. It will go to score difference. Currently, the score difference looks like Portrush plus, plus 9, Drum minus 4. So Drum would have to overturn 13 points of a score difference there. Shannon Rovers are guaranteed to go through. I don't think there's a way they can not finish. Yeah, the Rovers are guaranteed to go through. So there's more on the line for Portrush in this game. I will go with Port to win that. AJ Willis is back. Scored 5 points, I think, against Arvale Rovers the last day. So he'll be huge to have back for Port. The other game then, Drummond against Arvale Rovers. Arvale Rovers really struggling so far, it seems, in this group. Beaten by 9 points against Port the first day, and beaten by 2 points against Shannon Rovers. I'll probably lean Drummond in that game, but because it's Arvale Rovers' first team, it probably means a little bit more to him. Maybe, yeah, we'll go with Drum, but again, no real confidence really each way in that group. Then finally, the last group we're going to talk about is Group 4, the Intermediate Championship. This is Moneygall top in the group, 2 wins from 2, and they're playing Upper Church Drumban, who are guaranteed to finish bottom. They're 0 wins from 2 so far, as far as I'm aware. I'm just double check before I start talking about that. Yeah, Moneygall against Upper Church. We'll go with Moneygall to win that. As I said, they're my favourites for the championship. I think they should get the job done against Upper Church's second team. The other game in that group then, Carrickdavins against Knockavilla Donaghskee Kickham's. This is on in Care Friday evening at 6:45. I must mention Moneygall against Upper Church is the same time, Friday evening 6:45 in Templemore. Knockavilla against Carrickdavins is on in Care. Knockavilla put it up to Moneygall relatively, I suppose. What did it finish? 422 to 121 for a finish. So it was lopsided for a finish there for Moneygall. Carrickdavins had that just 1 point win over Upper Church, which kind of really surprised me. I think they were down big at half time in that game. I will have to go with Knockavilla Donaghskee Kickham's in that game to round off our predictions for round 3 of the County Ireland Championship. So that pretty much does it. If you want to get your predictions, if you're on YouTube, you can throw them in the comments below or let me know what you think. Over on Twitter, we're at Paul Carroll Sport. If there's anything else I need to mention, no, I think that's just about it. Of course, Sunday evening, we'll have the review looking back on all the games, and we'll be we won't know the quarterfinal draw at that stage, I don't think. I think it'll be Monday of next week before we know who's in the quarterfinals and things like that. But yeah, really looking forward to these games. As I mentioned, 3 games are on Tip FM if you're out and about the county and you want to throw on the radio and listen to some of the games. We've Bursley against Drum at 3:45 on Saturday. Then on Sunday, we've Brackens against Killadangan and Dala at 1 o'clock. And then we've Lockmore against Nina at 4 o'clock on Sunday. Really looking forward to that game in particular, that Lockmore-Nina game. As I mentioned, Lockmore is who I've predicted, but I think there could be a kick in Nina Rogue this Sunday. But it'll all be there to be seen over the weekend. Really looking forward to the game. Sunday evening, when we'll be looking back. If you're watching us on YouTube, as I mentioned, subscribe. We're up to 71 subscribers, I think. So if we could get up that number maybe to triple digits, that'd be a good buzz. Give the video a like as well. Give us a retweet on Twitter, all that stuff. If you're on Spotify, give us a good old rating there. So that's pretty much it. Until Sunday, enjoy the games. Don't take my predictions too seriously. And we'll talk to you Sunday evening. Good luck.